Stephen Miller is the Deputy Chief of Staff for the White House, and he was asked to come on CNN for an interview, although I hesitate to call this an interview. There's two things to watch for in this exchange with Kasie Hunt. This is a discussion over the deportation of violent, illegal immigrant gang members from Venezuela who were so bad and so lethal and so horrible that their own country won't take them back. And so they've been sent to a prison in El Salvador, who our commander-in-chief, the president of the United States, duly elected through his Article 2 powers, has negotiated a deal with the president of that country to take these criminals. Now, I want you to watch this exchange and understand, number one, how brilliantly Stephen Miller does laying out the law and not getting fazed or frazzled by Kasie Hunt's behavior here. And number two, listen, it would be easy to recognize how ignorant of news, events, and politics in American history Kasie Hunt is. That's a given. Instead, I want you to watch how quickly this interview from a journalist, a news host, whose primary job, I'm told, under the protection of the freedom of the press on the First Amendment, that her job is to better inform and educate her viewers. You tell me as you watch her behavior here, whether that's her goal in this interview or whether her goal is to engage in a debate, a fight, an argument with a representative of the Trump White House that she attempts and woefully fails at. Take a watch.
So you called the judge's order just earlier today, quote, patently unlawful, end quote, and said that it was an assault on democracy itself. Does that mean that the administration is ignoring this order, and might you ignore future court orders that meet the criteria you laid out?
The President of the United States and his administration reserve all rights under the Constitution to conduct national security operations in defense of the United States. The Alien Enemies Act, which was passed into law by the founding generation of this country, men like John Adams, was written explicitly to give the president the authority to repel an alien invasion of the United States. That is not something that a district court judge has any authority whatsoever to interfere with, to enjoin, to restrict, or to restrain any way. You can read the law yourself. There's not one clause in that law that makes it subject to judicial review, let alone district court review.
So, Stephen, when you say that this person has no authority at all, this is how our system works. It starts with these judges and then continues up. At what point does it become, in your view, legal for the justice system to be looking at this and making a judgment? And I fail to see how there's any other way but to start with where we're starting here before you get to eventually the Supreme Court.
Okay, did you see what just happened there? Did you see what just happened? First of all, do you notice how she calls him Stephen? Not Mr. Miller, not Deputy Chief of Staff Miller. Stephen. Stephen, she says. Stephen. But then she goes on, instead of, trying to elucidate information and facts through this interview so that her viewers can be better informed and educated. No, instead she says, well, this is how our system works. I mean, what are you going to, I failed to see. What do you mean you fail? I fail to see? Well, it's not our fault, Kasie Hunt, that you fail to see something, but that's not really the concern of a journalist conducting an interview as the host of a show on CNN. But CNN, of course, is a joke. And Kasie Hunt is an embarrassment. So she has let Mr. Miller know that she fails to see how this evolves now as a policy and a constitutional process, because she thinks that one district judge representing one federal district out of 200 plus in the United States of America, why that judge cannot order the president of the United States to stop a foreign policy and a national security concern. See, she fails to see that. And so now Stephen Miller will educate her. And finally, not because of the host or the journalist involved here, but Stephen Miller will now educate the CNN viewers, however few are left.
Well, so first of all, there's a term in law, justiciable. This is not justiciable. In other words, this is not subject to judicial remedy. When the president is exercising his Article 2 powers to defend the country against an invasion or to repel a foreign terrorist that is unlawfully in the country. He's exercising his core Article 2 powers as commander-in-chief.
Is Venezuela
This
invading the U.S.?
This is a very important point. This is a Title 50 authority. It's a commander-in-chief authority. So just to ask you a simple question, you talk about how the system works. Does a district court judge have the right to direct or enjoin troop movements overseas? Yes or no?
Well, Stephen, my question.
Well, no,
if you could
in
answer
other
my
words,
question first,
in other words,
is Venezuela
but
Venezuela invading our country in a way that would apply this
TDA?
way?
So I'll answer yours and you'll answer mine. Under the terms of the statute, Tren de Aragua is an alien enemy force that has come here as detailed at length in the proclamation at the direction of the Venezuelan government. The statute says that a president has the ability to repel an invasion or predatory incursion that is directed by a foreign
state
government.
or a government, right? Are they a state or a government?
This would be yes. It is documented. The TDA was sent by the Venezuelan government in the proclamation. And here's an even more important point: under the Constitution, who makes that determination? A district court judge elected by no one, or the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy? The president and the president alone makes a decision of what triggers that determination.
So do you then think we are actually at war with Venezuela, the nation state of Venezuela?
You're not hearing me and you're not understanding me. Read the statute, Alien Enemies Act, 1798. It says if a predatory incursion is perpetrated by a foreign government, so it lists three qualifying actions. It could be an act of war.
It does say in the very beginning there has to be a declared war against a nation or a state. That's what it says.
No, wrong.
I do like the sing-songy wrong. You gotta love Stephen Miller fact-checking the person interviewing him in real time. Kasie Hunt is right. Here it is. This is, in fact, from 1798, the Alien Enemies Act. This has been passed by Congress, passed by Senate, signed into law by the president. This has been challenged through the court system over the course of the last 227 years, and nothing about this law has been found to be unconstitutional. There's nothing wrong with utilizing this law. I promise you. It's really funny how it's like, oh, it's so old. It's from 1798. You know what else is a really old law? The Logan Act. Have you heard of it? Probably not much, because it's literally never been applied ever in the history of our country. It is a law in the books. The Logan Act, it's never been used. It says that an individual is not allowed to conduct their own foreign policy outside of the president of the United States. It was last invoked, not actually legally invoked, but it was dangled as a potential crime when James Comey and the Justice Department under Loretta Scott, who was the next, the Attorney General under Barack Obama. They used it as a threat against incoming National Security Advisor Mike Flynn in the first Trump administration, remember? Because he had a conversation with the Russian ambassador. What? That's a Logan Act violation. And everyone in the media was like, yes, that is a Logan Act violation. We must invoke the Logan Act. They've never, ever, ever, ever in the history of our country invoked the Logan Act. But here, the Alien Enemies Act, which has been invoked a few times in our history, you can't use that law. That's outrageous. All right. Well, let's read it. Being enacted by the Senate of the House of Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assembled, that whenever there shall be a declared war between the United States and a foreign nation or government, or an invasion or predatory incursion shall be perpetrated, attempted, or threatened against the territory of the United States by any foreign nation or government. There. That's the predicate, not what Kasie Hunt just said, which is, well, you have to declare war. It says so right at the beginning. She literally didn't read past the third line of the law. I read the third line. That's all I need to know. Declared war. Done deal. Slam dunk. Let's go nail Stephen Miller. Except Stephen Miller does not get nailed, not by the likes of Kasie Hunt. And that's why he said, wrong.
Look up the statute. It's on my account on social media.
That's actually where we found
it. Yes. It says, or a predatory incursion, or an invasion. The statute delineates three criteria.
Hold on. So the production team at CNN actually had the graphic with the facts already prepared for the interview, but Kasie Hunt still screwed it up? This gets better and better. God, she's bad. But CNN is fine with this. This is what CNN is proud of, this work product. Jake Tapper, are you proud of this? Are your viewers better informed because Kasie Hunt conducts interviews like this? Sure.
For triggering the Alien Enemies Act. One is an act of war, which, by the way, an invasion is an act of war, but put that aside. One is an invasion, which this is. One is a predatory incursion, which this is. So it actually meets all three statutory criteria. But with respect to this particular statute, the proclamation is utilizing the incursion and invasion language in the statute.
So,
but this is a very important question, because no, hold on. It's a very important question. You said the way our system works is the president of the United States commands the armed forces of the country, commands the foreign policy of the country, and that's subject to district court review. That is fundamentally untrue.
I never said that, Stephen. I did not say.
That has never been true.
This was not a military operation. I mean,
a district court judge can no more enjoin the expulsion of foreign terrorists to foreign soil that he can direct the movement of Air Force One, that he can direct the movement of an aircraft carrier, that he can direct Marco Rubio to engage in diplomacy in a country or not.
Do you think the Supreme Court has any say over this or not? Like, does the Supreme Court of the United States have any say over the things that you were just outlining right here?
I believe what the Supreme Court will say is what I just said, which is that the president's conduct here is not subject to judicial review.
But you are acknowledging that they do, in fact, have a say here, even though you think they may agree with you.
What we are expecting is the Supreme Court to say what has always been the case, which is when the president is using his powers as commander-in-chief, those determinations are not subject to judicial review. In other words, the president's designation of Trinidad as a foreign terrorist organization and as an alien enemy are part of his inherent plenary authority. There is no way.
At what point in the system, Stephen,
how are you going to expel? How are you going to expel illegal alien invaders from our country who are raping little girls, who are murdering little girls, if each and every deportation has to be adjudicated in a district court judge? That means you have no country. It means you have no sovereignty. It means you have no future. It is fundamentally incompatible to have a country and have individual expulsions adjudicated by a single district court judge.
I'm just trying to figure out at what point in the system do you, because what does the Trump administration believe? Because we do have separation of powers in this country. I hear what you're saying.
Yes,
you're saying
separation
the district
of powers.
Court does not
this is the judiciary
have
interfering
Stephen,
in the executive function. That is the separation of power. That is the separation of power.
Did you ignore the judge's order here because you thought you could?
So the judge's order and the actions taken by the Departments of Defense, Justice, and Homeland Security are not in conflict. And the Department of Justice has been clear that they are not in conflict. But
so you think that you did go along with the order that the judge put out? You do not think that the Trump administration defied this order?
As the Justice Department said, there is no conflict between the judge's order and the actions taken by the departments I just listed. But I'm making a deeper and more fundamental point.
Yeah.
The district court
if you don't have to follow it, why didn't you?
The district court has no ability to in any way restrain the president's authorities under the Alien Enemies Act or his ability to conduct the foreign affairs of the United States. Let me paint a picture for you. President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio had engaged in intensive diplomacy to obtain a bilateral security agreement with the nation of El Salvador. If a district court judge can join that bilateral security agreement, then we do not have a democracy. Stephen, you've made your argument. We do not have a foreign policy.
We've heard you say this. Did you ignore, did the administration ignore the order from the district judge? It's a simple question.
I've answered it. I've answered it because the Department of Justice has made a filing in the court. But let me make another point. The judge, in this case, put the lives of every single person on those aircraft at risk. Did he know how much fuel was in those planes? Did he know the flight conditions? Did he know the weather conditions? Did he know how many crew hours? Did he know the need for crew rest? Did he know any of that? No. This judge violated the law. He violated the Constitution. He defied the system of government that we have in this country.
Because that does seem to be what you're arguing.
These same district court judges didn't do a damn thing to stop Joe Biden from flooding this nation with millions of illegal aliens. These district court judges didn't issue any injunctions to save the lives of Jocelyn Hungary or Laken Riley or anyone else.
Federal courts. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that what you said, there's a separation of powers. The judiciary exercises judgment and relief.
I don't speak for the White House. You are here to speak.
I will do.
You're here to speak for the White House.
I
just want you to answer that one simple question.
I am. Ready? Here we go. Under a proper reading of the Constitution, district court judges provide relief to individual plaintiffs seeking relief. District court judges do not have the authority, as a general matter, to enjoin the functioning of the executive branch, but their authority is at its lowest point when the president is exercising his powers as commander-in-chief. And I asked you a question, you never answered it. Can a judge enjoin troop movements overseas? Can a district court judge enjoin troop movements overseas?
Stephen,
yes or no?
I am not going to get into the
just say no, and then you'll know that I'm right.
This is a
just
separate
say no,
question,
and you'll know that
Stephen.
I'm right.
Okay, we're not talking about other troops
the
overseas.
president.
I need to ask you about something else.
The president issued a proclamation delineating in detail how the Venezuelan regime sent this gang, this terrorist organization, to our shores. And by the way, and I love being here, but all the outrage that we are seeing from the Democrat Party and from the corporate media.
It goes on, but I think we've seen enough, and I want to end with Stephen's smile there. God, that was cathartic, and that was beautiful, and that was great to watch. And again, not only did he lay out the policy and lay out the constitutional principles behind what's really at play here, but he also exposed Kasie Hunt and CNN for exactly who they are. How can Kasie Hunt finish that segment and say, yeah, that's what I went to journalism school for, feeling great right now? How do any of her colleagues watch this and feel proud of that? Again, her job was not to try to advance conversation or maybe make things a little bit clearer for the audience. No, you saw how she approached this job. It was to be argumentative and fight with Stephen Miller because, of course, she doesn't agree with the policy. That's really the original sin in all of this, is that she's got a stake in this game. She's trying to fight Stephen Miller, not because she thinks she'll go viral and that'll get her a better contract at CNN. It might. No, it's because she wants to win because she thinks they're wrong. In fact, she thinks they're evil. And she wants to win because she's fighting the good fight. And yet she never did answer that question. Can a judge order the president of the United States with regard to troop movements overseas? And if the answer is no, then please explain how a judge can tell the president who or who he can't designate as a terror organization. And then if members of that terror organization are found in this country illegally, mind you, why he can't round them up and send them away. And of course, you can't answer that question if you have a head on your shoulders. And she has enough of a brain. She has just enough gray matter to figure out that she was boxed in horribly. That was a beautiful thing to behold. And for those of you who are saying, wow, gosh, it was just talking over each other and it was arguing and it was just back and forth. But, you know, the media never does that with Democrats. And Democrats, okay, there's two reasons why. Because when a Democrat is in the White House and they have their spokesperson go on CNN, it's not an argument. It's not a debate. It's not even an interview. It's a full body massage. And well, okay, sure. But what about when they go on conservative media? What if they go on the Fox or on Newsmax or on a streaming show like this? And the answer is, well, they don't. They never do. Because they don't like to be challenged. Mostly because they're not used to it and they don't know how to engage in a debate because, well, all through school and college and university and the non-government organizations or the think tanks that they've worked at and the political entities they've worked at, they've been surrounded in a bubble by people who all agree with them, number one. And number two, well, the fact of the matter is their ideas, their policies, their procedures, their arguments, their vision can't stand up to scrutiny. It's hard to defend the indefensible.